So I'm Lucas, I'm the Curator of Natural Science for Birmingham Museums Trust, and we're here in Wild City at Birmingham Museum and Gallery. This is our family gallery here at the museum. This is where most of the taxidermy is currently on display here. So Birmingham Museums has a huge natural science collection, consists of many different types of things, about an estimated 250,000 specimens. These include a large number of taxidermy specimens, particularly birds, but also preserved plants, fossils, minerals, and things like seashells as well. And this is an example of one of them. So this is an egg and nest from a group of objects called the Chase collection. These were collected by one person who wanted to basically collect one of every single bird in Britain. And that not included the adult specimens, but also young eggs and nests as well. So this is part of an enormous collection of over 3,200 different clutches of eggs donated to the museum. So these two specimens, the buzzard and the woodpecker, were part of one of a major display in Birmingham Museum and Gallery called the Beale Memorial Gallery. And it was full of many different cases, all featuring different species of British birds. They often had full sort of set work, so showing the habitat in which the birds lived, trees and rocks where they made their nests and things like that. The gallery entirely filled with different specimens of birds. At some point they decided to change the gallery, and when they did that, most of the cases were dismantled, but we kept the specimens. And now, part of Wild City, they've returned to Birmingham Museum and Gallery, where they were first back in the 1920s. So we're here at Think Tank now, because a lot of the taxidermy that used to be on display at Birmingham Museum and Gallery is now here at Think Tank. And here we have an amazing specimen. This is a great auk. This is one of only a few surviving specimens in the world. The great auk has been hunted to extinction. This specimen probably came from the last place where the great auks lived, a tiny island off the coast of Iceland. And this specimen is known as the Clungunford auk because it was part of a big display of seabirds in a place called Clungunford Hall in Shropshire. Birmingham Museums bought it in 1971 at auction. It's one of the last specimens to be sold at auction. So we're very lucky to have it here in Birmingham. So this amazing skeleton of a giant deer was part of the very first natural history displays at Birmingham Museum and Gallery. So we opened in 1913. It's been on display at the museum, both Birmingham Museum and Gallery, and now at Think Tank ever since. So yeah, well over 100 years now. So we've got two nice specimens here, a fabulous muskox and a brown bear. I mean, both of these were originally on display at a museum called the Imperial Institute, which was in London, in Kensington, and they were there to sort of promote information about the British Empire. So both of these originally came from Canada, and they were acquired by Birmingham Museums when the Imperial Institute closed down, and they've been on display in the museum and gallery for a long time until they were moved over here when Think Tank opened. And here we have a nice leopard. This was purchased from the famous taxidermist Roland Ward down in London. They used to provide taxidermy for people all over the country, all over the world. They also provided a lot of services to hunters, so people who went out to places like Africa and India and hunted animals, they would then bring them back and bring their trophies back, and Roland Ward would mount them and create nice taxidermy for them. So they were one of the most sort of well-regarded and kind of experienced taxidermists, particularly for exotic animals like leopards, lions and tigers in Britain. So this is a polar bear. A lot of people, if you remember the old natural science displays at Birmingham Museum and Gallery, this was one of the big specimens that used to be there. We've now moved it over to Think Tank when that opened. So like a lot of taxidermy, this specimen was bought as a skin rather than a completed piece of taxidermy. And then one of the local firms of taxidermists would have made the model of the body of the animal and then put the skin over to turn it into a finished piece of taxidermy. So inside the polar bear, there'll be a sort of wooden frame to provide support, and then that will be stuffed with things like wood wool or other sort of packing material to give the shape of the animal. So this is another extinct bird. This is the Norfolk Island kaka. It's a parrot that only lived on a couple of tiny islands off the coast of Australia. And this specimen came from Aston Hall originally, so a lot of the taxidermy before it even came to Birmingham Museum and Gallery was on display in Aston Hall. So there was a huge number of birds, animals and other displays over there. It was the original sort of home of Birmingham's natural science collection, but it's not really the ideal place to keep taxidermy. So when the extension for Birmingham Museums was opened, all the taxidermy and natural science specimens were moved over there.